take off and fly the Wasp, which is one of the aircraft that I've released with the carrier pack. As you probably know, the docking port, the reverse engine, and the naval aircraft shroud, which has the landing system hook and the air brakes built onto it, are the only parts that are actually mine. Actually, it's not true. I put some super struts in here as well to make sure things don't fall apart. Okay, so 2 starts my engine. I throttle up to maybe, what is that, 33% throttle. It's good to take off around, I think around 60 or 70 this one. So if I pull back, it actually takes off earlier than that. It's a pretty good plane. I mean, I don't have any complaints about it. It's a good flyer, good lander. Of course, I designed them both to behave slightly differently because simply everybody flies differently. So I figured if someone didn't like the other aircraft, they might get along better with this one, and that's the reason why I built 2. So once we get the little low jitter there, which isn't much of a jitter, I'll lower the throttle down a little bit and drop my hook, which also extends the air brake on this particular aircraft. The other aircraft uses just the hook and is a different landing experience. So we're actually probably going a little bit too slow. You have to learn the sweet spots. I think with this aircraft you can keep it at about 33% power and it flies relatively well at that setting. If you put the throttle down too much with this one, you're gonna have problems because it's gonna just want to fly and it's gonna want to drop altitude, and you know, it has too much drag with this particular brake. So you got to keep the throttle up a little bit higher on this one. So hopefully we get a good example here. I'm probably not doing too much editing on these. I'm just piecing them together afterwards. So hopefully this gets me the landing that I'm looking for and I don't have to keep redoing this. So you see the green lights on the landing system there? Just let it come down, see? Boom. Okay, so keep your nose up, kind of, you know, like between wanting, you know, once you get down to the level of the deck, you want to basically just not gain altitude, not lose altitude, keep the nose on a pitch up, and then just as you get close, you let the nose fall down, try to have the aircraft as level as possible with the horizon, and just let it catch the system. You pretty much won't have any problems landing after that. It'll be fairly straightforward for you to continue from that point. But so a lot of people ask me, you know, get confused at this point, what's going on? Retract your landing thing. You don't really need to. I mean, it's not a showstopper. Pull your brake off. Now it takes a few seconds for the parking brakes to actually release. You'll notice the thing start moving a little bit once it does release. Right there, it's rolling backwards. Okay, so now we're ready. We check down here. Our forward engine's still engaged. I press 2. I press 4. That engages the reversing engine. I put it up to about this setting here because the reverse engine's not very strong. So once I get the reverse engine up to about 3, is about as fast as you want to go on the deck. So I can engage the forward engine, is more powerful, so I just give it short little bursts, as you can see there. I start my turn. Give it little bursts. You don't want to go forward more than 3. You definitely want to be between 1.5 and 2.5 is probably the best speeds to be at for taxiing on the deck and not having any issues. So once I get going here, as you can see, whoa, okay, so I screwed that one up a little bit. Put the reverser engine on a bit. I'm going to go forward now. And again, I want to monitor my speed so I'm not going forward too fast. If you go forward too fast, it's not good. I hit the brake, brake. And as you can see, the actual mount is off to the right, off to the left of the mount a little bit. It's probably not going to connect because it's too off center. So there it is. Okay, so it did connect, and it's okay. There you go. So it's pretty easy. I mean, it's pretty simple to get it connecting. Now I'm just going to break away. I'll come in with the other aircraft. So here we are with the Shark. This is the first aircraft I made. After test flying it a little bit, I got it working a little bit better. Also, when I first released it with the mod, I didn't have a ladder on it, so people couldn't get in and out. So I put a ladder hidden in the little cowling here of the air intake, and it allows for Kerbals to get in and out of it. It's a little bit, you know, wonky, but you know, that's the best place I could find for it without disturbing my wing positions. So I went with it. I could probably put a ladder back here and just let the guy climb up and walk into the cabin. But we all know that ladders in the game at a 90-degree angle don't allow the Kerbal to walk up on things, so they kind of just get to the top and fall off again. So you have to have it at a good enough angle to get the Kerbal on it, walk up, and actually fall off on top of the wing, and not, you know, the other way around. So again, same procedure with this aircraft. This aircraft, of course, uses has a different landing speed and setting. I'm not even going to touch the controls, and it should just take off by itself right there. And then I'll just give it a little bit of a nose up to help it along. Once it picks up speed, it'll maintain a level flight. And once it gets up to you know, 130 or something like that. Okay, so I'm going to just speed along. I'm going to do a quick transition to land here, and show you that it, you know, how easy it is just to quick transition. So here we are coming in on the carry 141. I'm going to brake. I'm going to lower my my throttle setting down. This does not have as much drag, so you really have to put it down to basically the first little notch here, down here, and that should get you down to about the right speed you need for landing. This has about 1/3 the drag capacity, or the drag amount that the other part has. So the aircraft lands a little bit different as well. Caught it. We're down, and that's how easy it is. I didn't even have to cheat or nothing. Okay, so the same thing for this. I'm going to want to turn off my forward thrust. I'm going to select the tail hook. Bring up the landing system again. It's 5 on the keyboard. I'm going to turn off the brake. When I see that when I visually verify that the actual thing is starting to roll, that means my parking brake is now off, which makes me happy. I'm going to increase this. I'm going to actually start. I'm going to move myself over a little bit here. Get myself more in line with the actual port that I'm going for. Hit the forward engine before I fall off the back of the ship. And you don't want to be going faster than 3, like I mentioned before. So I'm just going to try to come in here and skim past the tower. I'm going to skim past the tower a little bit. In some cases, you're going to get caught up in some of the deck or whatever. You're going to get caught up. I'm going to just sidestep the docking port here. So sidestep it on the front. I'm going to just pull even now, and then reverse engines. And I'm going to back over it. Brake. Okay, if you brake too much, don't worry about it. You know, once you get within a certain range, it's going to pull. See? The docking clamp's pulling it in anyways. So there's nothing really to worry about. Once it gets close enough, it's connected. You're done. Got 2 aircraft on the deck now, and probably under 3 minutes. Maybe even 2 minutes. I'll do a little bit of legwork for everyone who's really interested in getting some rovers into the carrier. And this is how I'm doing it. I'm going overboard with a very large rover, and we'll just see how we go here. So I'm going to swing to the inside. What I've done was, with rovers that sit high above the deck, I'm finding that these wheels love to sink in, and because these wheels maintain a connection with the floor, they don't retract like the old landing gear do. I'm finding that docking them sometimes, unless the height of the docking port is perfect and it actually elevates the craft right at the floor level, I find that if the wheels sink in, it's causing explosions. So I'm trying to get this done properly. If I can manage to get this working, then you guys will know exactly what the issue is, and if you're into transporting rovers around the world, not only aircraft, then you should be able to do it. So let's see what we got here. Okay, that worked. Well, let's see what the connection looks like. Okay, this is good. Okay, so the wheel, basically the level had to be perfect. When it connects, it actually levitates it or pushes it up off the connector. So now we have our rover fully connected. We should be able to travel around with it and not cause any bad things to happen. Coming into port. Full power. Let's check on this. Looks pretty good. We're essentially just going to take the rover around to the other side of the beach here, and then we'll spin her around and drop it off on the shore. And that should conclude our demo. So full speed at 41, 3x, 4x, no explosions. Slowing back down to 1. I'm going to start the turn. I'm going to throw the engines in reverse. And I'm going to cut engine power now. And we'll just keep her slowly turning. I'm going to speed up time a little bit here so I can spin the butt around on this thing. And slow time back down again. And I'm going to move in. I guess this test now will be to decouple and drive out the back of the carrier. So everybody wish me luck. And there it is. I'm going to switch to it. And we're going to back out. Again, you don't want to be going too fast when you come down the ramp. So just use your judgment. If you break a wheel or something, like I just did, yeah, not a good scene. So anyways, we're out on the beach. I went a little bit too rough there and I broke a wheel. I would suggest actually just lowering it out into the water. It's probably easier on these things, depending on how heavy your rover is. There's a lot of stress on the wheels as it comes down the ramp, so what we can do is EVA. We can repair the wheels that we do have. The wheel that broke off, well, we're kind of dead with this thing anyways, but luckily what we can do with this is we can use this as a platform, because I kind of doubled up on the gear. So if we drop the gear on this using the G key, I suppose, it now is a stationary platform. So it's not a total loss, I guess. So that concludes the rover part of our demonstration. So this is just a little showcase of the Runabout. The Runabout, you have to tune up a little bit in order for it to actually perform the way you'd want it to. To get the back end floating a little straighter, you want to give it just a little bit of float more at the back, then get it moving. Again, this download, or this inclusion in the file, the craft file here, needs a little bit of sorting out. The engines have to be separated from the parachute. Why does it have a parachute? Because it likes to get airborne. It likes to go fast, it likes to get airborne. And it's important that the faster you want this thing to go, the more you reduce the float to the front, increase float to the back. That will keep the nose from going up into the air. I find that with just the settings I've done here, I can probably get this thing up to, you know, 4. That'll do. Now I'll get this guy going. And these seats are great, even stock and stock formation. I mean, they have such a great range on them. That adds a little bit of weight, I believe, to the front left of the ship, so that might balance it out a little bit more. Let's get going to 2/3 throttle, see what she does. So with less float on the front, full power, we're going 41.6. No splashing, nothing. Don't even need the parachute. Okay, now if we want to give it a little bit of nose up, okay, so if we want to give it a little bit more float, okay, let's give it a little bit more float. Okay. Now what it's going to probably do is catch air and fly. So what we can do is just start reducing float. And let's see what we can get here. Okay, we're up to 79 is the highest I've seen when it's up in the air more. As you can see, the back end is still in the water, but she's pulling some serious speed now. She's doing at 81. And there we go, airborne. Now, as you can imagine, throttle down immediately. Deploy the chute. Okay. The problem here is as weight is reduced off the front, it's more critical than weight that's on the back. So what's happening is the reduction in fuel weight is causing the front end to lift up. You're not going to be able to achieve all the speed that you've achieved before with a full load. So if you notice that, take the weight that the fuel represents and add it to the boat in other forms of, you know, lights or battery packs or whatever you want. Make sure you mount them high so they're out of the water, range of the water, and that should give you enough downforce on the front, or trim your float more negative so that you have less, you're catching less air on the front. So I line myself up alongside the boat, get myself moving. And once I'm in a position that I think is relatively centered, I'm done. I can then switch over to the carrier, and we have the loading bay, which I open. And inside the carrier, I've fitted the crane. Now I get a little bit of a wonkiness here. Usually I put struts here, but I just forgot for this demonstration. So in any case, we have our crane. I mount the crane inverted on the underside of the actual landing platform above the deck, and I swing the crane out. Now that's why it's just called a swing crane, because it doesn't go up and down at all. It just swings out. So I swing the crane out. I then get onto this and I show the GUI for the winch. And we're just gonna, oops, sorry, the other way. We're just gonna lower this down. Now the carrier has enough electricity capacity from the actual nuclear generation that from the reactors to actually power KAS stuff indefinitely. You don't ever have to worry about running out of power. Look at this. Electric charge is holding at 950. And we latched on. I don't want to latch onto the side of the ship, so I'm just going to latch onto the bottom of the ship, and then we just simply lift. Now the stretchiness of the connection up above is worrisome, so I'm not quite sure why it's so stretchy. But also we want to be able to pick up any cargo or ship. We want to be able to pick up as from dead center as possible. So if you're having a runabout and you expecting to carry this on the carrier, I would suggest you put a little bit of a tower maybe with one of the truss pieces at the center of mass for the runabout, and connect the magnet, or have one of the special connector plates that comes for KAS and mount that onto the tower, and simply drop the line down, have a guy connect to the connector plate, and then pull it up. This here I can fix with some struts, some super struts, so it's not too big of an issue. Like that. You know, after the summer break, I think I've been having quite some pretty good success with this, though. As you can see, having my fun. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the preview. Albatross Naval Recon, liftoff, inbound to location where carrier was sighted. Carrier is now visible on radar. Approaching. Heading 125. Hostile carrier, you are in Kerbal waters. Please leave immediately. Oh! They shot me down!